Every year, we did it the first year, if you can recall, all the way back to Cleveland 2013. We did an evening event where we awarded and honored some of our CEPAs that were frankly, very simply, I can remember talking to Chris about it, what we call just doing things right. And that when you look at when you kind of look at our industry, right, right when you kind of get into it, it's kind of negative, right? We say 80% of businesses don't transition, 75% of owners profoundly regret selling the business a year after selling it, and on and on and on. We all know the statistics, right? And so we said, though, given it's a kind of a new and pioneering industry, though, let's flip it and look at the positive. Because I think we can learn just as much from our mistakes as we can from people doing things right. So literally, very simply, Chris said, let's honor those folks that are doing things right. So 5 years ago, we created the Excellence in Exit Planning Awards, and we incorporated it into how we closed our conference to kind of keep it very positive and upbeat, but also very casual and kind of hanging out with one another before we all depart on to our next destination or home. If you remember, as I start doing these awards, if you've been with us the past couple of years, I usually say a few words before we get into the awards about who we are and why we're doing this. So if you remember 2 years ago, I took a picture of a photo, I guess, or a painting I have in my living room. It now actually is moved to my stairway. But if you were here 2 years ago, there is a saying that I have on my wall that says, "Do not follow where the path may lead, but go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." And I thought, when I was literally preparing to come to the summit, when I was walking in my kitchen, or walking through my kitchen into my living room, that made me think of all of you and all of our folks that are up for, our nominees that are up for awards. Last year, we talked about relentless execution, which eventually became a chapter in Chris's book. And when we thought about these types of exit planners, we thought, what else describes these folks? And when I was writing down my specific little notes with everybody, I kept kind of writing the same things. A lot of these folks on here are doers. So I think there's a pretty significant difference, in my opinion, between somebody that's kind of an idea guy and someone who's a game changer. There's a lot of people with ideas. I'm sure everybody here has some unique idea, whether it's with exit planning or something far-fetched. We all probably have an idea, but the fact of the matter is, fortunately or unfortunately, most of those ideas will never get realized because people don't know how to execute or execute in teams. And so when I think of people, whether it's a member of the year, a leader of the year, or the exit planner of the year, I think of people that are not just people with great ideas, but people that are game changers and can relentlessly execute. And so this is literally when I talked to you about that little lounge area instead of a conference room that we have. If you saw this last year, if you don't remember, it's the first time you're joining us, this is literally our conference room, and this is like our war room. And so we come in there for creative ideas. We come in there to do strategy. We come in there every Monday morning to reconvene and set the week and set the tone for the week. But when I think about exit planners, I think about relentless execution, and we're so passionate at Snyder Premier Growth Companies and EPI that we hang it right above our whiteboard. So every day that we're jotting down a bunch of notes, that's actually kind of nice. It's usually jumbled everywhere, and I think there's a Snapchat picture of Brooke's face on the wall now over to the right. But it becomes a fun wall to kind of play with, and that keeps us kind of lighthearted as well. This year, our good friend Randy Orton, the WWE wrestler I talked about when I kicked this thing off yesterday, when I thought about thought about our 10-year anniversary, thought about CEPA's doing things right, I thought about, in this business, it is about making an impact, right? And so that, again, sits on all of your mugs, and I'm sure there's more to be had, so if you want one, please take one with you. But now, when I think about exit planners, I think of people that don't follow a path. They go away from that path and leave a trail. I think of people that are not just idea people, but people that actually go and do and create results, people that can execute. And I also think, particularly this year, with our 10-year anniversary in mind, I think about people that make a lasting impact. So with that, let's start with our Member of the Year. So our Member of the Year is presented to a CEPA that really contributes significantly to the overall EPI community and then the exit planning profession as a whole. They act as really a key expert or leader, particularly in their local or regional communities, their local regional marketplace. And they lead exit planning education while driving awareness. Frankly, what you usually see in this category are a lot of our chapter presidents or our chapter leaders, people that are really digging their feet into the local community and contributing through bringing exit planning awareness. First, Jan Grable. Jan, I have used for an example for quite some time. I actually used some of his workshop quarterly meeting stuff that he did last year or throughout the years in our summit last year. He is the CEO and managing partner of Legacy Planning Partners. Based in Philadelphia, he is a CEPA class of 2015. Once he came out of that class, I think if you talk to him, he would say that he immediately began implementing what he learned there through education and awareness. He does quarterly educational sessions for owners and advisors alike. He contributes regularly to the community. As I said, we use him as an example for what CEPA should be doing, guys doing things right. And he will serve as a chapter leader in both the Greater Philadelphia and Lehigh Valley chapters that we'll be launching here in the next, say, month to 6 months in the Pennsylvania area. Dan Duran is our next nominee. See where we go. Dan is a principal at Quantum Business Valuation. Dan is, if you saw his session, in my opinion, he is what I call the entrepreneurial advisor. Dan is actually a really cool guy, and I don't know where he is, but he is definitely someone, as a young business guy, someone I look to. So I think as an entrepreneurial advisor going, there's actually a lot of you like Dan in this room. He's a prime example of just that. Based in Washington, D.C., he's CEPA class of 2016. He serves as the president of the Capital Region chapter. He has developed his own valuation software, which aided in the abilities to scale his own firm, and to help business owners, I think, which he talked about earlier today. He has really cool exit planning boot camps taught in a collaborative manner with other experts in the local community. And he is an accomplished writer and speaker as well. Steve Capizzi, he is the founder and managing partner of Apex Exit Advisors based in Atlanta. He's actually CEPA class of 2008. So he was sitting with Chris and Sean back in 08. Back in the old days, yeah. He's been actually doing exit planning as a part of his advisory firm for 22 years and financial services for another 26. He was instrumental in setting up strategic relationships with the Cox Family Business Center at Kennesaw State University. He's author of the book Family Wealth Counseling, meant to empower and educate business owners, something that you heard me talk a little bit about when we have to change our behaviors. When we start to work with owners and exit planning, we have to educate so that we can empower, much like probably you saw at the roundtable. He's the president of the Georgia chapter, and right now he's pretty busy conducting the State of Owner Readiness Survey and the Owners Forum. Last but not least is Bobby Kingsbury. I think we all know Bobby. I always call him the PE guy. So Bobby, I always think, is pretty unique in this inside of the community because we don't really have a lot of private equity folks that kind of hover around as certified exit planning advisors in the CEPA community. It's something that I think gives them a very unique perspective, gives us a unique perspective as well. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. He is the class of 2016, and he is what I would consider a rising leader in the exit planning industry and EPI community overall. Certainly, as I said, kind of unique as this PE guy inside of the EPI community who truly believes in value acceleration. After completing the CEPA program in 16, he quickly actually became an instructor, favored by a lot. I think he's probably rated in our top 5 out of the 13 or so instructors that we have. He's a frequent partner at our national owner-facing events and our research as well. So this year's Member of the Year is Steve Capizzi. Steve was set to be with us in Naples, Florida, and if you're from the Atlanta or Georgia area, you know Steve. Steve had some pretty extensive knee surgery, and he said he could make a couple-hour flight but unfortunately he could not make a 4 or so hour flight, and that would just be too rough for him. So we send our wishes over to Steve, and we'll make sure to send his award out to him as well, but he wished he could be here. All right. Our Leader of the Year. Our Leader of the Year is presented to a CEPA that has really trailblazed a first-of-its-kind project, an initiative, or even an entire practice. Something that's, I think what you'll see inside the leaderboard is somebody that, the Leader of the Year, is somebody that has some kind of significant impact or has some kind of significant contribution to the exit planning profession or overall community. They're certainly a thought leader. They're certainly a risk taker. They've taken a position. They're regarded as an expert and a specialist, and they innovate and influence while showing characteristics of collaboration. Most leaders, every Leader of the Year usually has some kind of project or initiative that they've been working on for the past 12 or more months. Start with Julie Keyes, founder of KeyeStrategies. She is the class of 2015 and the president of the Twin Cities metro area chapter. I will say, if you know about collaboration, you certainly know about Julie. I was over hanging out with them at the AM&A conference in July, and she had a whole session with all of her collaborative team from Minnesota, talking to a bunch of investment bankers and private equity folks, for the most part, transactional, really minded folks, all about collaboration. So I commend her for that. She is a national speaker and instructor in the fields of exit planning and value growth. As I said, I think she's honestly a brilliant example of what results-oriented collaboration is. She led the way on one of our first ever State of Owner Readiness surveys tied to our Owners Forum event. She concluded that and hosted that event in March, and it became the way in which we did State of Owner Readiness surveys and Owners Forums. What I can appreciate about Julie is that she kind of rolled the dice with us, and we said, look, it's not enough just to do the research. We need to showcase those results through an event so that we can actually start to empower those owners to take action. That resulted in a dedicated column in the Minnesota Business Magazine that has about 10,000 owners reading it. She is a mentor and advisor, I believe, to many CEPAs and probably a future member of our EPI faculty. Next is Gary Residlow. He is a senior wealth director at BNY Wealth Management. Talk about execution. I would say, and for the BNY guys, I think Gary had to leave, correct? But he is a guy that gets things done, I can tell you that. And I think you guys all at that BNY table would agree for sure. He's a CEPA class of 2015. He's a thought leader, and he's brought exit planning into the present with a major organization like BNY. And he assists BNY with the implementation and support from the central office to build exit planning education within BNY, both for owners and advisors. He is a prominent speaker. He is the president of the Greater Nashville chapter, and he was one of the first 3 folks to actually do a micro-market State of Owner Readiness survey while partnering with Vanderbilt University. Last, but certainly not least, is Melissa Silverman, class of 2016. Another fine example of collaboration and a fine example of somebody that can actually get things done. I can tell you, I see in the back, Melissa, and you certainly challenged me, and I can appreciate that. She is a partner at the Founders Group, a nationally newly launched exit planning practice. She's actually collaborating with a whole group of folks that I all think are sitting back to the right at her table. And I think it's pretty cool. There's actually a fellow CEPA's on that team, and I think you guys stretch from New Jersey to San Diego and LA, so West Coast to East Coast. And there's not many people that can say they own a national exit planning practice. She's also an accomplished valuation expert. She's the president of Avenue M Advisors. She's a boutique valuation and consulting firm. She is the chapter president of the Greater Los Angeles chapter. And she is also pretty busy leading the State of Owner Readiness Survey and Owners Forum down there in Southern California. This year's Leader of the Year goes to Julie Keyes. stairs over here. Oh, there's stairs there too. Good. There you go. Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
This is a huge surprise for me. A huge honor to be nominated for one thing and then to win. I think everyone that was nominated deserves to win, but usually it's just one. So thank you. It's been a great journey, and I've appreciated so much the teamwork that I've gotten from EPI, and you guys you're so willing to try new things and kind of let us have a little autonomy and do things our own way because we're trailblazers and that's what we do. So it's been really great, and I just look forward to the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. You know, to Julie's point, I would say that, you know, looking at our CEPA community, all of you out there, and how significantly we've grown, talk about 10 years. I think when we came into EPI in 2012, I think we had about 120 or maybe 180 CEPAs, and now there's over 600. In fact, Josh, in passing today, said that there's 56 people in our next CEPA class in November in Chicago. So the community is growing, but it's actually growing in the caliber of the advisors as well. So the last CEPA program, I don't know if anybody was in here from the San Francisco class, it was pretty significant. And so this year when Chris and I were putting together these awards and consulting with the team and some other of our board about who should be nominated and who eventually wins, to Julie's point, this is by far the toughest decisions I think we've had to make in regards to our nominees. And semi-awkward up here for me because you guys all certainly are key advisors for us at EPI, and it makes it really difficult for us. So as we're moving through here, the Peter Chrisman Exit Planner of the Year Award. So before I invite Pete to the stage to say a few words, let's tell you what the Peter Chrisman Exit Planner of the Year Award is all about. Previous winners, so you know, include Peter Chrisman, Craig West, Sean Hutchinson, and Gordon Bell. It is the highest honor offered in the exit planning industry today, and certainly within EPI. It is awarded to a CEPA that embraces both member and leader of the year qualities, practices exit planning, manages exit planning engagements, educates both owners and advisors, develops or provides industry-changing exit planning content, tools, or solutions that are really tied to directly changing the outcomes of business owners. They showcase the core values of what it is to be an EPI CEPA and have the CEPA designation. And they have had made a unique impact on this profession both locally, regionally, nationally, and globally. I'd like to at this time invite, before we talk about the nominees, invite Pete to the stage to say a few words.
Is this live now? Yeah. Thanks very much, Scott. Before we go very much further, how many of you sat in on Chris's roundtable session that he and Mike had and stayed awake throughout the whole presentation? Okay, all of you. Now you remember the assessment chart where you could rate your different categories from 1 to 6? Remember that? No, you're not. You sure you remember, Dave? Okay. From 1 to 6, I think this conference gets a 6 from me. How many others are going to join me in giving this conference a 6? And let's give Scotty and let's give his staff a big hand for making this a 6. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
I am very proud of this award. Just seeing the quality. You know, it's like my baby, and seeing the quality of the instruction that we've had the past 2 days and the quality of the social intercourse of conversation as thank you, Chris. Did you know I talked with my hands? Oh, okay. How did you? But it is like seeing your baby grow. And a couple of people said to me, you know, aren't you kind of stupid for selling it to these guys? And are you a little bit jealous of the money they're making now and everything else like that? No. That's the reason you sell. If you're an entrepreneur, you build it up and get the base, get the foundation laid, so somebody that can come along with more resources, more energy, and build it up to what we saw today. Thank you. And keep that baby growing, okay? Finally, what Scott's been talking about on these awards, I told Chris about a phone call I had about 3 years ago, I think 4 years ago, with a former client. And he was telling me about how happy he is and so forth and so on. And this guy owned the world's largest go-kart manufacturer. And he was an engineer, did not pass a lot of kudos around, very reserved, and he was just happier than hell in his exit. He says, you know, you're responsible. I'm responsible? He said, yeah, you're responsible. I said, how am I responsible? He said, well, let me tell you something. In my many years, he was in his late 70s at the time. My many years of dealing with people, there's a lot of people that can do, but very few people will do. And I almost fell off my chair getting that compliment from this guy. And I told Chris, I think, Chris, you were the next one I talked to. I got on the phone with Chris. I said, you never believe what happened to me. But I think that these awards are given to those people who will do. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. All right, with that, let's meet our nominees. Two fine gentlemen that I could tell you personally are very close to me. Not only are they clients of mine and certified exit planning advisors, but they're both mentors for me as well. So thank you, and it's certainly advisors to Chris and I. First, let's start with Peter Hickey. Peter Hickey, I don't know if you get to know Peter, he's a pretty interesting guy. He's an advisor, he's a developer, he's an influencer. He's actually an exited owner, so he's got a pretty interesting story. He is a CEPA class of 2009. He's from Sydney, Australia. He is the founder and CEO of Mouse Business Systems, of which I feel many of you do use. What's interesting about his story in Mouse, if you Google him and kind of look him up and understand him and talk to him, he founded Mouse in 1990, and it grew from a one-man show kind of business to a multi-million-dollar company, and then he sold Mouse to a multi-billion-dollar publisher. So he actually sold it, just to buy it back in 1995 when it was at the bottom of the IT cycle over in Australia. So he bought it back. And over the years now, since then, he's added businesses to that portfolio to build what he created. He serves the industry as both an advisor and a supporter and a partner for over 28 years. He is a best-selling author, the creator of multiple award-winning tools that are used by more than 60,000 companies worldwide, including Mouse. He is the president of EPI Australia. Peter led just a very successful May CEPA program. We've rejuvenated the CEPA Australia program. We held it back in May, the end of May. And he has championed exit planning across Australia. It's not as easy for us to drive to Chicago or maybe up to Minnesota or perhaps down to Florida or Atlanta. This guy actually has to get on a plane if he's going to spread the good word of exit planning and fly around his country. He does speaking, and he's also doing certificate in exit planning courses over the well. And I would certainly say that he is an international instructor and trainer. Next, Mike Trabert, class of 2011. He is I would say that he's an innovator. He's very dedicated to this industry and profession, and he's very passionate. He was nominated last year for the Leader of the Year award. He's a partner at Skoda Minotti. He's also a CPA evaluation expert and a certified mergers and acquisitions advisor. Skoda Minotti, he's actually aggressively wrote a business plan and started to implement that plan across the firm, adding exit planning as a service line into what Skoda does. I believe now he has 7 different professionals working within that division, and he recently authored an ebook around the 5 stages of value maturity. As you saw him this afternoon, he was the first to market with the Owners Roundtable series. So he's led many owners through that series on value acceleration and exit planning, and just created and developed an 11-month program. As I think they talked about as well, they went from roundtables to focus groups, and in a really pioneering and frankly kind of a risk-taking, influential type effort. You know, really talk about triggering owner action. I think that shows it right there. Inside their CPA alliance, let's say, the leading edge alliance, he's also spearheading exit planning. I believe, Mike, you're on your way to Paris, France, to continue to spread the good word of exit planning there at their conference. He co-chairs the Family Business Special Interest Group, where he's brought exit planning right into the present. He's also an accomplished speaker with owner-facing organizations like Paul Mitchell Franchises, other business organizations, and Vistage. So. Oh, you already took it. This year's Exit Planner of the Year award goes to Michael Trabert.
Well, when Peter came up here, he said, how many people stayed awake during Mike and Chris's Owners Roundtable presentation? So Pete, now that I have the mic, I'll ask the group, how many people stayed awake during Pete's introduction to this award here? He didn't wear those funky black and white shoes this time, so I had to crack on him for something. So seriously, when Scott notified me that I was a nominee for the award, I was very surprised. And then I looked at the exit planning website to see who the prior winners were. And so in 2013, obviously Peter Chrisman, the original exit planner, and the award is named after him. The next year, Craig West from Australia, who has 5 offices that does just exit planning. Then Sean Hutchison, who was our keynote speaker at the summit last year, and then followed up last year by Gordon Bell, who's very knowledgeable, experienced in this area. So there's really a rarefied air of the prior winners. So last year, when Scott opened the conference, at the keynote, at the opening, he challenged all of us and he said, what are you going to do to create change? And so I took on as change the outcome as our mission statement for our group at the firm. Then Sean, during his presentation, Advisor to Future, he talked about data being the bridge between owners and advisors. And I think Chris and I are doing that with the Owners Roundtable. Then lastly, Dennis Roberts, who's on the Board of Advisors at Exit Planning Institute, tremendous investment banker, just recently retired, he's author of many books, does a lot of teaching. I had a sidebar conversation with him at the hallway last year at the conference and told him what we're looking to do, and he said, make yourself known. So I kind of took those 3 nuggets of information, kind of bringing the awareness and education to the owners that they could be that they could have change the outcome and a more successful outcome for them, and then also maybe getting a little known by doing so. So with the Exit Planning Institute, they provide a great platform for all of us to take advantage of. And so they put together programs, they have the resources, and it should make our job a lot easier to help our owner clients succeed. So, Sean, also in his keynote last year, he said, we're at our smartest when we're humble. So I'm very smart right now because I'm very humbled to win this award. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Well, okay.
He's not done?
He's not done yet?
Okay, switching subjects here, and this is off script. And so I mentioned the award winners the last 4 years, and there's one name that's conspicuously missing from that list of winners. And this person has done more for our profession the last 5 years than any of us have. And he's truly the exit planner's exit planner. And so a quick story. So in 2011, he went to Scott Schneider and said, I want to be the capital T, capital H, capital E, exit planner in Northeast Ohio. Can you help me get there? And so I think Scott and this person did much more than that. So, as you may know, he was recognized as the Thought Leader of the Year by the Alliance of Merger and Acquisition Advisors, and obviously has the book Walking to Destiny, which is a tremendous read. So, to my colleague, to my friend, I have a small token of appreciation for everything that you've done for this profession.
Quickly, you probably can't see it. It's a picture of my son and I. I'm getting choked up. Receiving my Thought Leader of the Year award. Can I say one more word?
Sure.
One more thing I just did want to mention. Because I know we're trying to wrap this up. But the award is named after Peter Christman, right, for a reason. And when we did the first award, I wanted to make sure that the first Exit Planner of the Year went to Pete. And although I may have taken EPI to another level, with the help of my son and my team, you started it all. So let's give Pete a big hand.
All right, guys. So, our awards usually conclude our Exit Planning Summit. I wish you all the best. I appreciate everybody making the big change from Naples, Florida, over to Scottsdale, Arizona. We did it. We concluded it. We're making it happen. Again, I really appreciate everybody's time here. I hope you all found little nuggets that you could take home and implement immediately. And I hope to see everybody very soon again.